Welcome to the Love Deep Lab podcast, helping you integrate sex, sexiness, sacredness, and science in your life and your bedroom. And now, your host, Dr. Stormy.
Hi, I'm your host, Dr. Stormy. Welcome to the Love Deep Lab podcast. Today, we're going to talk about communicating your needs, wants, and desires sexually to your partner. And this is not an easy thing to do for many couples. Actually, research would say less than half of couples talk and communicate deeply about their needs, wants, and desires sexually. And the couples that do, and I'm inviting all of you that are in safe, loving partnerships to consider communicating with your partner about your needs, wants, and desires in the bedroom, because the research also shows that couples that do have a much greater satisfaction sexually and a deeper intimacy and connection in their partnership. And so many of us in partnership, well, one of the main reasons we're in partnership is for the deep intimacy and connection that we have with our external beloved. And it's desire and is sort of the antithesis of routine, right? And so even by having these conversations with your partner, by having these tender, vulnerable, powerful conversations with your partner, you will feel a different sort of intimacy with them. But I also want to go through today some strategies to set you up for success with these conversations, because they are also tender, right? Sex is so shrouded in shame and judgment and self-criticality. Sex is also so shrouded with cultural messaging. So your messaging that you got, maybe from your family of origin, maybe from your religion, maybe from your own experience, is going to be different than your partner's. They have theirs coming in, say, into the bedroom as well. And one of the things I always say is that what happens in the bedroom shows up in life, and what happens in life shows up in the bedroom. So if you're struggling to communicate your needs, wants, and desires sexually, you might also notice that it's hard to communicate in other areas. And vice versa, as you practice these skills to increase communication in the bedroom, you'll find that you're able to communicate more outside the bedroom about a variety of things as well. Cindy Gallup, who's the founder of Make Love Not Porn, has a great quote I want to share with you. She says, "Everything great in life and business is born out of great communication, and sex is no different." So that's what I want you to kind of take into this as we get into some tips and some practices for you all. But is that great communication is so key to all of life. Absolutely key to great sex, right? You hear me say all the time, everybody wants to have great sex and nobody wants to talk about it. And it just doesn't work that way. I mean, maybe every now and then you may have great sex, but if you want to have consistent, great, passionate sex in your partnership, communication is a key. Okay. And again, I want to say the caveat, this is if you feel safe in your relationship. If you don't feel safe in your relationship, please reach out for help. There's domestic violence hotlines, there's therapists. Please reach out for help. You are not alone. But I'm talking about for couples that there is the safety there and the rest of it's just awkward, right? And let's just be honest, sex has some awkwardness to it, right? There's different energies, there's different bodies, there's different body parts, there's different orifices. People like different things. We often fall into assumption. We're trying to assume what our partner likes, what they want, what they desire, what they fantasize about. And assumption is just never a great idea, but in the bedroom, it will not be sound. It will lead you awry, right? Assume, make an ass out of you and me, right? We are not mind readers, and we can't be expected to read our partner's mind, nor can we expect our partners to read ours. So these are tools to begin to communicate better, more powerfully, more honestly, more authentically about your needs, wants, and desires in sex. And as you do so, you will have better sex. You'll have better sex with your partner. You'll have better sex with yourself when you're making love to yourself in solo pleasure. And so it's a really important thing. I also want to normalize, right? We all have needs, wants, and desires sexually. And they're different from person to person, even from day to day within the person, within the same person, right? So my sexual needs, wants, and desires change. So do yours. So having these conversations, opening these conversations, these dialogues, and then knowing that you can revisit it, you have now opened this door to deep, authentic communication. And communicating your needs, wants, and desires is a key to fabulous sex. So one of the things to consider when you're approaching communicate your needs, wants, and desires is the timing. And it kind of depends on the research, but what I think about timing is be thoughtful about the timing, right? Often we're like, let's say you're just so frustrated sexually, or when something didn't happen or did happen again that you don't like, or, you're feeling rejected or whatever it might be, that's probably not the time to talk to your partner because you are in rejection or shutdown or frustration, whether it's sexual frustration or emotional frustration or both. You're triggered in the moment. They might be triggered. So really consider the timing. And research would say that talking about sex is not the best to happen right before or after sex. I think it's great to do feedback during, we'll talk about that. And then even after to say like, wow, I really loved it when we blah, blah, blah did this, or I really loved it when you did this. It's okay to be in dialogue, but if you're bringing up need, wants, and desires, perhaps consider not doing it in the bedroom, doing it at a time when you are connected, when you maybe have an emotional intimacy, maybe you're out on a walk or out on a date or having a glass of wine together, whatever it might be, to share your needs, wants, and desires. And La Miller, who's a sex educating expert, will say, start low and slow when you're talking about your fantasies, right? And fantasies, we all have them. And yet fantasies is a whole different realm of sharing because it's really vulnerable and we can feel like our partner might shame us or judge us. And what I say is you don't get to judge your partner's fantasies. You might not agree with them, like them, want to engage in them, and that's okay. That's a boundary, but you don't get to judge or shame your partner for their fantasies. Right? It's not helpful ever in the relationship. So bringing your partner, your fantasies, start low and slow. Start sharing something that just is exciting to you that isn't maybe your most wild erotic fantasy, and see how your partner responds to that. Start to build that skill set and that trust and that space in your partnership. Another tip is to take full responsibility for your own pleasure and your own orgasm. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Take full responsibility for your own pleasure and your own orgasm. When we are having partnered sex, we can often externalize our pleasure, externalize our orgasm, right? Our partner is responsible for that. What they do or don't do brings me to orgasm or doesn't. The truth is, and can be hard to let this land, but it's also incredibly empowering and liberating, is that you are responsible for your own pleasure and your own orgasm. And it's so fabulous. And so when I say that, there's freedom in that. I am giving you full permission to get to know and inviting you, encouraging you to get to know your body, your pleasure, your orgasm. And then you're much more skilled and able to communicate with that partner. So let's say you might say, wow, I have found that I really love this and I want to show you, right? Maybe you're using words, maybe you're guiding their hand, whatever it is, you're giving them all the cues, all the nonverbal cues as well. But also knowing your own pleasure and your own pleasure map helps you to better be able to communicate that with a partner. Another tip is be really clear and explain. So explain to your partner like, hey, this really turns me on. I've noticed this really turns me on, and this is why, and I would love to invite you. I'd love to try this with you. How do you feel about that? Really being curiosity. Start having conversations, right? This isn't about you projecting onto your partner and expecting them to meet you or them doing the same. It's about having clear communication and doing so in a way that sets you both up for connection, intimacy, passion, lust, love, and great sex. Another tip that I like to encourage my couples that I work with about is how do you deliver a no? Right? Because no's are important. I tell my clients and myself, boundaries are so important. If I don't know my no, then how can I really trust my yes? So your no is important. Your no is valuable. And then how do you deliver your no? And there's no right or wrong way, but there are, saying, no, I don't want to do that, and not giving your partner any explanation. The tone of which you deliver the no, the lack of explanation can really make your partner feel shut down rather than, this is a no for me right now because blah, blah, blah. But what is a yes for me is this, right? And you don't owe your partner an explanation, but how you deliver your no, the tone and the way in which you deliver your no is really important to be curious about that. And then how do you cope with receiving a no? How do you cope with receiving a no if you're a yes and your partner's a no? What might you do? What might be some coping strategies for you as an individual and also for the coupleship? Another tool is phrasing it, right? Like they say, give 3 positives for every negative, right? In parenting, some say 6-1, but that ratio is important. So starting with a positive, like, I really love it when you blank, rather than I don't like it when you blank, right? So you hear the difference in that. So I love it when you blank, rather than I don't like it when you blank, right? And so the way in which you phrase it, it focusing on the positive, saying that you would love more of this. It really makes you feel good when this, and staying with the I language, right? So I love it when you blank. It feels so good to me when you blank. I would love more of blank, right? Rather than you. That's just a great way to have less of a chance of your partner getting defensive, right? And defensiveness is always going to put up a wall, a barrier between the communication, particularly in tender subjects like this. So that's a great thing to think about as well. And then staying away from superlatives, always and never, is a great other tip, because it's likely not the case. We tend to, when we're really trying to make a point, to use superlatives, and I do it too. And I try to catch myself, but saying you never or you always, right? So now we're using you language and superlatives. It is likely going to put your partner in the defensiveness or shut them down, neither of which is going to lead to fruitful, deep communication. And then another tool is to get curious about your sexual style. And there's a lot of information that you can Google sexual style. What's my sexual style? My sexual style quiz. There's lots of information out there. There's lots of different frameworks. There isn't one paradigm. And we talk about the 5 love languages, which is another great tool that I've mentioned in many podcasts, but that's a great tool to understand how you want it, how love lands for you most deeply. But what's your sexual style? This is different. So the Erotic Blueprints by Jaya, Jaiya. She's a Tantra teacher out of Los Angeles, her and her partner Ian. I really like their Erotic Blueprints. That's like the love languages for the bedroom, in my opinion, for the erotic energy. There's a free quiz there. That's a great thing. If you look up sexual styles, often you'll kind of see a delineation between like spiritual and mindful, funny, angry, lustful, tender, fantasy, right? These are also some sexual styles, and there's different quizzes and frameworks to check into that. But basically understanding what is your sexual style? And we tend to have a primary one, and then it can also change over time as we commit to this work and to growing, exploring in our sex and sexuality and reclaiming our sexual power. We can sort of lean into other styles as well. And David Snarch, from his book Passionate Marriage, also has a sexual style that he talks about: sexual trance, partner engagement, and role play, right? So those are just explore. Google's a beautiful tool for this. There's free quizzes, there's books, but you start to dialogue. You start to understand yourself and your own sexual style. What turns you on? How do you feel connected? What kind of lovemaking do you desire? And again, maybe it's many of the kinds of lovemaking, but then you get to communicate that to your partner. What kind of style is your partner? What primary style? What turns them on? What gets them into the erotic energy? What does great sex mean to them? Because even the term that you want to have great sex with your partner, amazing. You can, you should, you will. But what does great sex even mean? Like, that's a great conversation starter as well. So some other just easy things to try. Like I said, quizzes are great, like conversation starter for your partner. Do them together or take them separately and then share them. Books on sex, on relationship, on, role play, if that's what you're wanting to explore. There's so many resources out there. There's coaches that do what I do, podcasts like this and so many others. Like, finding the resources to help support you and your partnership is really a great thing. There's decks of cards too. There's sexy starters and sex inspiration cards and conversation cards that can kind of also add a playfulness, because it can feel like a little bit of a take down the barriers if you're using cards and there's a playfulness to it. So you can Google lots and lots of different decks of cards like that. Sex toys are also a great way to sort of begin to build that bridge, that communication bridge. So looking at sex toys together, going to a store, looking at a website, picking one out together, you'll also start to hear what turns your partner on. Are they looking for vibrating, non-vibrating, clitoral stimulation, G-spot, prostate, whatever? You start to get an idea. It gives you an entry point into having these conversations. So that's another great one. And then, sex is everywhere, right? So start commenting on if you're watching a movie together and there's a sex scene of like, wow, I really find that sexy. Like, I'd love to try that with you, right? And so you can have this gentle segue, this gentle entry point. So those are just some tips for you. But I want to honor you for being here and listening or watching, for putting intention and attention on having great sex with your partner, on increasing the communication with your partner to have time-bending, mind-blowing sex and fabulous orgasms. So I just honor that. My heart is with partnerships. I think it's a beautiful crucible for learning so much about ourselves, and all of our shit shows up in the bedroom, right? And all of our sparkle too. But hopefully this today helped you to have some tools to understand why it's important to communicate and some tools to do so. So thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for being brave and opening your hearts to love deep.